Is Aaron Judge gonna play tight end for the Buccaneers, or is he going back to the Yankees? I don't know. Looked like maybe Tom Brady was trying to make a move for January, but nice 6-7 piece would work nice for him there. Anyways, Buccaneers got the win somehow. Tom Brady. Is he still vintage Tom, or is this just the Saints being a bad team?
Better yet, are the Bucs back, or are they just bad?
They're just bad,
Mm-hmm.
in my opinion.
I, it's like there's no reason you should throw the ball 54 times and only have 281 passing yards. I feel like you should have a lot more than that.
I actually think they are partially back. It'll take a little bit more once they get into the playoffs, but they're never good against the Saints. I don't know why. And the Saints do have a great defense, so
I saw a lot of New England Tom Brady last night. I know two of the touchdowns I had was a Cade Otton, the tight end.
yeah, K. Dotton had
Yeah.
one, yeah.
And then White, the running back. So
Yep.
dump it down to White, and I think that was the game-ending touchdown, right? Something similar we've seen
yeah.
back in the past.
Yeah.
Kind of like a running back tight end duo type thing that we've seen from New England.
What were they doing though? They punted the ball with like 6-7 minutes left. And
Yeah, I was
punted the
curious
game
about
away.
that too.
I don't understand it. Because Brady was shoving them off the field, and then Todd Bowles overrided him and said,
Yeah.
"No, we're gonna punt it."
He's like, I'm not Bruce. Get out of here. This is my team.
Todd Bowles being a defensive guy, though, maybe he just thinks that, I don't know, his defense is going to score points. That's what I don't get, is I think a lot of coaches defensively think that their defense not giving up points is like scoring points. I don't know if you kind of understand what I'm trying to say, but it
No, I
doesn't
get
make
it.
doesn't make any sense. Like some of these defensive coaches, like I've heard from uh other people talking about like Mike Vrabel and stuff, and oh, he's not afraid to punt on 4th and inches. It's like, well, why are you punting on 4th and inches?
Yeah.
It's not you're not afraid to play defense. I think it should be you're afraid to go for it. Like it's almost like they're making it sound like they're fearless, but in reality they're just making stupid decisions and I don't know, trying to make it look like their defense is gonna score points for them.
They said Mike Vrabel would punt it on 4th and inches.
Yeah, that was a thing like a year or two ago. I remember.
I
Don't
could
remember.
never see that. He's my personal opinion, I think he's the most aggressive coach in the league.
It's just weird though, like why anybody would do that. Like, a couple of years ago, I guess that maybe he was a little less aggressive in terms of like going for it on 4th down. I know he's not scared to go for two, but
Yeah.
that was back when the Titans actually had more defensive pieces than they do now.
Okay. Any takeaways from last night's game on the Saints side? I feel like they were kind of the I don't know, I felt like the Bucs were the underdog in that game. Overall.
Taysom Hill dropping the ball, which would have sealed the win for them. It was about a 30-yard catch. I don't know how that
he had
much
a good game too.
Yeah, he had a touchdown. That much of a physical man couldn't hold that ball, and that must have been a pretty rough hit. That would have won them the game.
Mark Ingram running out of bounds short of the 1st down marker too. That just what are we doing here?
Mm-hmm.
And why is Mark Ingram still playing? I know the Saints are short on running backs and everything, but instead of Latavius Murray showed out for them when they played in London, and instead of them saying we're gonna go with Latavius Murray here, they let him stay on the practice squad. Of course, Denver picks him up then because why wouldn't they? They needed a running back too, and they decided to stick with Mark Ingram. But I don't get that. I think the Saints need to just tear it all down.
Really?
I do. I really do. I think that they are in a really, really tough situation. They don't have a 1st round pick, so it's not like they can even say, well, we're just playing for a quarterback at this point. They're going to have to play next year with either Jameis Winston, Taysom Hill, or Andy Dalton playing quarterback for them. Probably Jameis Winston because he's under contract. I don't remember if Andy Dalton is, but we all know Taysom Hill is. But anyways, that's my take on the Saints situation. They're just gonna have to probably be bad for a good 2, 3, 4. I don't know. However long it's gonna take them to get back under the salary cap.
Yeah, that's another good point. They're in what most people would say cap HE double hockey sticks.
Hmm.
Not in a good place to be for this organization.
Definitely not.
All right.
So, which elephant do we want to address first in the room? The elephant in San Francisco or Los Angeles?
I think we should start with San Francisco.
Okay, I have a steaming hot take on this.
Let's go.
Okay. So, I don't know if anybody else is going to agree with this, but last year around this time there was a series of documentaries about a certain NFL player that came out. And this certain NFL player in the year maybe 2000 was a sixth round pick, and he was playing backup for Drew Bledsoe. Drew Bledsoe had a horrific injury that knocked him out for quite a bit of time. And then some guy named Tom Brady decided that he was going to become the best quarterback ever, lead the Patriots to the Super Bowl. Brock Purdy, similar story, Mr. Irrelevant, who is not so irrelevant now, I think you could say. I mean, he's won a game. Well, technically, he wasn't the starting quarterback, but he played almost the entire game. Brock Purdy, could he potentially go on a type of run like Tom Brady did in his rookie year? Or is this just something where he played good because the opposing team didn't have to game plan for him?
I think we've been seeing a lot of this year. Like just some random guy is thrown in the
Mm-hmm.
backup slot and he does well.
Yeah,
Um, I mean,
Skylar Thompson.
Skylar Thompson, Bailey Zappi, our guy. Um, who
Malik
else?
Willis struggled, but
Yeah,
example of a guy who wasn't the first round pick came in and played
yeah.
significant role
No,
in the
Tyler
team.
Huntley. Tyler Huntley's got to come in for Lamar Jackson,
Yep.
and I
And
think
Yeah,
he's gonna do really well too.
he will. He's shown that he can do. He could run the offense just as well as Lamar.
I think he could start somewhere, honestly.
Probably. I could see him. I know this is a stretch for a lot of Broncos fans, but I think he could probably start. He'd probably give the Broncos a better shot for their money,
Yeah,
rather than Russell Wilson.
yeah, I'm really hating Russell Wilson right now.
Don't I wouldn't hate Russell personally. I am just not liking the combination.
Well, you might not hate him, but I I can consider myself a Russell Wilson hater at this moment in time.
All right.
That could change next year. Different head coach, I'm assuming, is going to come in. There was actually talks about, Nathaniel Hackett being fired earlier this year. Then some thought he might have been fired yesterday. So it's going to come to an end, I'm assuming. They're not going to play the Josh McDaniels card of we don't have enough money to fire the guy that we just hired. So
Well, they're already eliminated out of playoff contentions. I don't think they're gonna. I don't see any reason to fire him. Honestly, just let him
they'll
ride out the season.
yeah, they'll probably
that's
do it on
right.
Black Monday. Yeah. I don't think that's going to stick long. That
He's made it
slogan.
longer than Urban Meyer.
Yeah, that's true. Not that that's saying much, but Doug Peterson already has more wins than his NFL head coaching career than Urban Meyer. So,
What a
here,
story!
yeah,
But that's a flash from the past, and we're in the present, and now we're heading into the future. Let's talk about LA. Today the Rams just picked up Baker Mayfield off the waivers and is now the starting quarterback, wearing number 17 in the blue and gold for LA. he could possibly play this Thursday. What do you think about this pickup?
So for me, couple things come to mind. First of all, what an absolute disaster the Carolina Panthers have been this year. Like, I thought that they weren't going to be very good, let's be honest. Then they got Baker Mayfield, and I thought they would maybe be, fighting for a playoff spot at this point in the year. Not necessarily that they were going to actually make it, but I thought they'd be floating around 500, maybe a game or two below. They're awful. Okay. Baker Mayfield, obviously that didn't work. He asked the Panthers for his release, and the Panthers said, "Get out the door. Please don't ever come back." Well, I don't know if those were the exact words said, but you can
Something like
imagine
that.
that's probably pretty similar. Anyways, so Baker Mayfield going to the Rams. Here's my second take on the situation. Matthew Stafford has been banged up throughout his career. I shouldn't say he's never been fully healthy, but he's had a few shortened seasons due to, different injuries, and he's been pretty tough coming back. Obviously, he won the Super Bowl last year.
Mm-hmm.
Good for him. But that being said, now that he's won the Super Bowl and he's, got these nagging injuries, especially the elbow injury, I wonder maybe he should look himself in the mirror this offseason and make a serious decision about whether he wants to continue playing in the NFL or not.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, if it was me, I'd go, I can totally back off now, and I'm going to retire. The Rams' future is not very bright. I mean, they still don't have a first round pick this year. So I think it's all going to come crashing down if it already hasn't in LA.
Well, to branch off of that, I mean, the reason they gave the 3 first-round picks is to grab Stafford and win a Super Bowl, and that's exactly what they did in the first year. So
Yep.
if I'm Matthew Stafford and thinking about retiring, I'm not even feeling bad because I came here and did my job and did exactly what the goal was, to give up this franchise's 3 first-round picks. So I don't think it was a dumb decision at all. It may screw them over for the next couple of years, but I mean, hey, they won the Super Bowl and he's aging and they know what he's gone through for his entire NFL career. So, I mean, if I'm Matthew Stafford and I'm considering retiring, I would just do it. And if I'm the Rams, I mean, there's plenty of quarterback options out there, not just in the first round. I'm sure there's going to be some talents drifting into the second round. You never know. Even in free agency. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, when you compare it to what the Saints have done, the Rams won the Super Bowl. You can't fault them for that. The Saints are pretty close to the same direction the Rams are heading, but they did not win, of course.
Yeah, I almost think that the Rams being bad this year is actually better for them long term. And here's my reasoning why I say that. So the Saints, they kind of hung around. I mean, that one year with Drew Brees where they lost in the wild card round, they were 13-3. I think that was basically the last big chance that the Saints had of going to the Super Bowl. Now, of course, they made it to the playoffs a year later. I believe they lost in the divisional round, but that was almost worse for the Saints, in my opinion, than it just blowing up, because then they kind of looked at their situation and thought, well, we were close and maybe we can just run it back again, stretch out some more cap space down the road, and maybe it'll work this time. And they just kept on doing that. Well, the Rams, I think, were starting to do that. Like you saw them bring on Bobby Wagner, Allen Robinson, and give Cooper Kupp and Aaron Donald extensions. I believe Stafford had some sort of extension work too. So they're starting to push the money down the road because I think they still believed in the back of their mind that they were going to contend this year. I mean, let's be honest, a lot of people thought that they were still going to, at worst, be a wild card team, win maybe 10, 11 games. But now you look at the infrastructure of their team and you go, okay, well, if it looks bad now, it's going to look even worse in a year or two. So I think this is a good thing for the Rams now that it comes crashing down versus them trying to be mediocre or just, try to stay in that playoff hunt and never really getting back to where they want to be.
Question for you guys. Do you think this Baker Mayfield experiment will last for or extend into next season if Stafford decides to retire?
I don't know if it will continue in LA. I think Baker Mayfield will still have more success in this league. I don't know how to say it.
Mm,
I think he will find his place.
And I totally agree. The only reason why I'm saying this with LA specifically is according to U Stadium and on Instagram, apparently Sean McVay is a very big fan of Baker, if that makes any sense.
He's a QB wizard.
Yeah, I mean, and it's a similar offense to what the Browns ran. So I don't know if that helps him at all. He kind of struggled in Cleveland. If you want to discuss that, I mean,
Do we
or
know if
argue that.
Do we know if Cooper Cup is indeed out for the season, or will he be back for maybe 1 or 2 weeks?
I don't. If I'm the Rams, I'm just saying we're done here. So are you.
Probably
Just
this
don't
is
Yeah,
probably just
risk
a money
anything.
mover, just to create as much revenue and ticket sales.
I just want to see Baker Mayfield throw to Cooper Cup.
So I'll answer your question here myself. So if this ends up, so if Stafford retires like we were talking about, I can see a world where Baker Mayfield is back being the quarterback of the Rams next year. The thing that's kind of murky for me as to whether that happens or not, couple things. So first of all, how does Sean McVay control his personality? So if he ends up being just fine and everything with, not a distraction, doesn't end up just being a total meathead like he was in Carolina and Cleveland, if Sean McVay can control him, I mean, we saw with Odell Beckham Jr., he was able to control him. So can he manage Baker's ego? And the second part to this is Sean McVay the coach of the Rams in 2023? There's a good chance that he retires also and goes to TV or something, just walks away completely. Now, I don't know how likely that is to happen, but I've heard reports. Um, Forgive me, it's been a while since I've seen the report, so I don't remember who it was that said it. Um, Potential reports of maybe Sean McVay will be done coaching the Rams now that they're basically going to go into a full rebuild. So that could be an interesting situation to keep an eye on. I think they're gonna probably need a tank quarterback next year. Now, either a tank quarterback or they're gonna be looking for somebody that they can maybe stretch out into the future. I think Baker Mayfield's the right guy to take that chance on. I mean, he was the number one overall pick, what, 4 years ago. So I don't see any way that the Rams can lose from this because worst case scenario, it all blows up and they are picking their next quarterback anyways. But again, this is a big if riding on the idea of Matthew Stafford and maybe Sean McVay retiring after this year.
Yeah, I could see plenty of people retire from that team. I mean, they all thought about it after the win, and
Right,
now that they
Mhm.
suck, I don't see anything holding them back now.
right. I think Matthew Stafford and Cooper Cup were really the only true people that we knew were coming back.
Yeah,
Um, Other than that, it was kind of up in the air. Aaron Donald said he wanted to be the highest paid defensive player, or else he was going to retire. I don't know how much smoke there actually was, or how much fire there was to the smoke of Sean McVay potentially leaving after this last offseason. But I mean, there has to be some sort of truth to it because I don't think that that would just come out like that.
yeah.
Now, When you say tank quarterback, are you saying like bridge quarterback, someone that tries just is there to get you through the season?
Yeah, I don't know. Because the
'Cause-
thing for me, a bridge quarterback would be somebody that you can ride out over 2 seasons. Because,
like Jameis.
yeah, Jameis Winston would be a good example. So my idea of a bridge quarterback is somebody like Marcus Mariota that's going to play for a year, and then maybe the next season you go into the season with him as a starter, and then he'll eventually be replaced by a rookie. So that's my idea of a bridge quarterback. For me, the difference between that and a tank quarterback is basically somebody that's just there who's not going to like completely shipwreck the the team. I mean, it's gonna somebody that's watchable, right? Like you're not throwing Kyle Allen out there. You're not trying to make it so obvious that you're tanking.
When you think tank quarterback, I'm gonna tell you who I think, but who do you think of?
Hmm. Maybe like I almost want to say like a Ryan Fitzpatrick, maybe.
Like, okay, because when I was thinking Jacoby Brissett, but that's another good example.
That's
Is
yeah.
Ryan Fitzpatrick. I think those are perfect examples. So I want to move this. I kind of want to merge this into the Deshaun Watson discussion. Um, say okay, Baker Mayfield doesn't pan out. Could you see them reverting over to the Rams? But what if this happens? Um, Deshaun Watson plays horrible the rest of the season. What are the Browns going to do? Do you think they just keep Jacoby on the roster, or do you think they would end up getting rid of him if he's playing like absolutely horrible? Like we can't even start this guy.
Well, I think with the amount of draft capital that they gave up for him, they're gonna have to roll with him either way. Let me check the terms of Jacoby Brissett's contract. But if I'm in the Browns, I'm not moving off of Deshaun Watson even after. I mean, so you're gonna get a sample size of what, 7, 8 games from him.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so I think if he looks that bad, so Jacoby Brissett is a free agent after this year. He's probably
Okay.
going to go somewhere else, in my
Yep.
opinion. But I don't think he's going to look so bad to the point where he would be the guy to get sent away. I think, if anything, the guy to be sent away would be Kevin Stefanski. So I think the sacrificial lamb in that situation, unfortunately, is going to be Kevin Stefanski. There was kind of some talk about this towards like the beginning of the season when the Browns first traded for Deshaun Watson. And there's always that thought of what if it doesn't work out, because we're seeing that with Russell Wilson in Denver right now. So if it doesn't work out, unfortunately, the head coach, whether they were advocating for it to be for the trade to go through or not, they're the sacrificial lamb because they're kind of looked at by the ownership, the front office, whoever, as the person that couldn't make it work. So we spent all these draft picks to get Deshaun Watson, Russell Wilson, Matthew Stafford, you name it, quarterbacks like that they basically gave up their entire future to get. So when you have a guy like that, you're obviously, with the amount of draft capital that you gave up, you view that person as a superstar. So if they're not performing to their peak ability, your first thought is this is a coaching problem. So that's what I think would happen first. I think we're going to see a full season of Deshaun Watson in Cleveland before we make any judgments about him, me personally at least.
Yep.
But that's not to say that Deshaun Watson might look awful and have the entire fan base turn against him by season's end.
Moving over to Deshaun Watson's start this past weekend. His statistics were 12 completions of 22 pass attempts, 131 yards passing, one interception, 7 rushes for 21 yards. What did you think of him?
He was bad. He definitely appeared to be a quarterback that hadn't played in almost 2 calendar years. So,
But he
yeah,
looked the same.
he's definitely rusty, though.
you could see it. You could see the rust coming off. He's definitely still there. He
Did you
just needs
guys
time.
did you guys watch this game like at all? I don't
did.
understand. I don't understand what. Can you tell me what happened? Because Nick Chubb didn't do anything, and it seems like the
It
Browns
was
defense did
the
everything.
defense. The Texans offense just fell apart and the defense took over. It was
They
silly
had
mistakes.
they had like three defensive combined with special team touchdowns.
Yep. I don't think
What
the offense
complete
scored
dominance.
once.
Jeez.
Yeah, that's an issue.
But this is a good team to open up the season on. To get back
Yeah.
into it. Because they
Yeah.
I don't remember who they play. But either way, it doesn't even matter if they're playing the Bills or the Jets or something like that. He's still going to need to find a way to get back into it. And I know
Yeah.
his statistics are horrible. He did make some pretty good looking throws, and he escaped the sack like he used to in Houston, and he looked like the same Deshaun Watson from before. Just didn't do a whole lot.
So they play Cincinnati next week.
Okay.
It is a divisional matchup.
Yep. Is it in Cincinnati?
Real quick.
I believe so.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
That'll be tough.
Yeah, it will be a tough crowd. Yeah, the run
I mean,
game's really
how
gonna
much
help
was
him here.
how bad was the crowd? Did you hear it on TV at all?
I actually heard a lot of cheering.
Really?
I don't know if I'm just confused with the booing and cheering or not, but I heard a lot of positivity.
Yeah, I saw a lot of people wanted autographs from Watson, even for Texans fans. So there's
That's good.
Mhm.
still a following.
Yes, definitely.
Then of course you got the people who are over the moon angry, but yeah, I mean the ultimate thing is can he win games? So if the answer is yes, then I think most of all that'll win over the fan base.
I mean, yeah, so far he's 1-0, but let's be honest. You could have put a breadstick in at his position and they would have won.
You
Flip
could've
flop him and Kyle Allen.
Yeah,
What
you
happened?
could have put Kyle Allen there.
My gosh, poor Kyle Allen.
Actually, no, because Kyle Allen caused one of the touchdowns by fumbling a QB sneak.
Anyway.
Yep. All right. So I think that's going to do it for this episode. Check us out on all platforms. Apple Podcast, YouTube is our main one, Spotify, etc. And we'll see you next time.